A really, really warm welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I know everyone has some busy, packed agendas of some excellent webinars today, so really appreciate you taking the time to log into ours and hear our talk, Alexa, Will Coronavirus Hurt My Baby? So some quick intros before we dive in. My name is Rozzi Meredith. I'm the Head of Innovation Strategy at Voxly Digital. Ravi Lal, our brilliant CEO and founder, is actually giving another talk today on Match the Day magazine, a voice experience we equally recently launched. So Ravi and myself will be around for Q&As after this, so please do save up your questions, and we're more than happy to spend some time answering anything specific that comes up if we haven't managed to cover it in the next half an hour or so. So as I said, we're from Voxly Digital. Voxly are Europe's leading voice agency. We are a full service voice agency, and we work primarily with global B2B brands. Our mission is to build the world's best voice experiences, and that primarily happens on Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant. As I said, we're a full service agency, so we have a team of in-house experts, all the way from strategy to UX design to coding and development, and that includes two Alexa developer champs, who we're very lucky to have as part of our team, and we are also a recommended supplier by Google and Amazon, and incredibly proud to be one of just 4 agencies the Amazon UK skills team have selected to officially partner with and support when it comes to developing voice apps. So as I said, we are normally all based in-house in London, Paddington, all now based in our respective kitchens and bedrooms, but that's hopefully a short-term situation. We're a end-to-end design agency, so we follow a very clear structure when we develop voice apps. Think, which is the upfront strategy, the user insights, the testing, build, so kind of going into deep dive into UX, content copyright, software development, the mainstay of what we do, and then run, which is once the voice apps get into market and go live. We're very, very big on user testing. We're very big on analytics and continuous improvement when it comes to launching our voice apps. We've been incredibly lucky to have had the opportunity to work with some really major global brands actually across the world, not just in the UK, across a variety of sectors, particularly around FMCG, so the consumer goods sector. We do a lot of work with supporting voice apps for Unilever. I've done a lot of work with Diageo, Coty in the and Maybelline in the beauty and fashion sector. So we've really got a range of experience across the board amongst our team, which we're very proud of. But actually, health particularly is a sector that we're really kind of passionate and interested in, and we've been lucky enough to work with some big names in wellness and healthcare, and combining that with our expertise in the voice world, develop some great voice experiences. So for those of you who are based in the UK, I don't know if you've been doing your morning PE workouts with Joe, the body coach, but we developed and support his Alexa skill, which is incredibly popular on Amazon. We've also launched an app for Mind, mental health charity. We've worked with Sanofi on a real-time pollen alert skill and Vitality to support their fitness and wellbeing loyalty scheme. And finally, we work quite closely with Public Health England. So we launched their first voice app as part of the NHS Breastfeeding Friend, which kind of fell under their Start for Life umbrella, and we're working with them on a couple of other projects. So it's definitely an area that we know works very well when it comes to voice, and an area where we as Voxly have quite a lot of expertise. What we wanted to talk to you about specifically today was our most recent healthcare and actually charity use case, which we developed with in partnership with Mindshare UK. and Tommy's charity. So Tommy's charity are a UK-based charity, and we'll tell you a little bit about what they do in a second. But essentially, as the UK went into lockdown in March, we launched Tommy's Midwife, which is the charity's first voice service on Google Assistant and Amazon Alexa. And it was quite a complicated one. It actually included over 400 Q&A questions designed to support expectant and anxious parents in the run-up to the birth of their child. So it was quite interesting and a new build for us. So what we wanted to cover today was a little bit around the insights and the research that guided the design solution we got to. As I said, not an easy thing to do to develop a bespoke and custom voice search algorithm and integrate that into an app in a reliable way. So we're going to take you through some of the lessons we learned by doing that, and also some of the lessons we learned from launch. So hopefully the next 20 minutes or so will be very valuable. And as I say, please do save up your questions as we go, and I can answer them at the end. Little bit of context before we dive straight into hearing about the project, though. We just wanted to share with you a couple of the insights that came out of our latest Voxly Insights report that we published in April this year, just as the UK had been in lockdown for a couple of weeks. Some really interesting insights came out around how voice assistant usage, particularly in the UK, as a result of lockdown, has massively boomed. The usage of voice assistants has gone way up. From our research, we know that over 50%, 53% in fact, of people are using their voice assistants more now since lockdown began than they were before. And also that echoes in the usage of Alexa skills and Google Actions more broadly as well. So we know that 48% of people are using their third-party skills and actions more now than since the lockdown began. So we're really seeing a boom in the UK, particularly when it comes to people engaging with the world of voice. Interestingly as well, what we're seeing is it's not just engagement in the functional world of voice, the answering questions, the using Alexa to turn the lights on, for example. The role of the voice assistant is becoming a lot broader and a lot more emotionally supportive. So from the people we asked, over 60% of people said, yep, their voice assistant was helping them get through isolation. Almost that same number said their voice assistant was helping keep them happy and positive. And again, almost the same said it's keeping them calm and relaxed. So really, really powerful figures when it comes to the role of a voice assistant in UK households and the positive, tangible benefits and the trusted credentials and the value that they are proving themselves to have within UK households. Also, what's interesting came out of the study was that engagement in the voice ecosystem more generally is increasing. We see almost 40% of people saying, yeah, I've spent more time looking for new voice apps since isolation. Almost that same number saying, yeah, they've discovered them. People are talking to each other about new things their voice assistant can do, or new things they've discovered their voice assistant can do, or being told about it by family and friends. So the discourse is wider. The adoption is definitely booming. Really, really interesting time to be working in this space and looking at how usership is changing. What's interesting as well is we do see those trends whilst in lockdown as a predictor of future usage once as we all are kind of slowly emerging out of lockdown and behaviour will start kind of finding a new normal again. This time is been invaluable to a lot of voice users to use it to understand the voice ecosystem a bit more, but also gain confidence when it comes to their voice assistant and understand what it can do, with 40% of people saying it's more useful than I understood it was. So what that means is that user confidence has been increasing, that engagement with the world has been increasing, and we can see that almost 40% of people are saying they will use their voice assistants more post coronavirus lockdown and than they did pre-coronavirus lockdown. So it's really, really having an impact on that broad scale user behaviour when it comes to this ecosystem in the UK. What we're seeing as well is understandably more and more people with voice assistants, especially in this lockdown period, have been turning to them for the latest advice and updates. So we saw a big jump in the number of daily users of voice assistants to get the news. So that increased from 39 to 60%. And similar sort of trends seen as well when it comes to asking and on a least daily basis general questions of voice assistants. Again, not surprising given the situation. It's a very high anxiety time, particularly the start of lockdown in the UK as elsewhere. And a lot of people felt that anxiety and were looking to get information. No more so than expectant parents. And that's where the work of charities like Tommy's really comes in these moments of high anxiety to step in and provide guidance. So a little bit of information about Tommy's before we dive in. Tommy's are a UK-based charity, as I said, and they fund pioneering research into the causes and the prevention of pregnancy complications and baby loss. They believe that every baby lost is one too many, and they're focused around the stat that 1 in 4 women will lose a baby during pregnancy or birth. So their focus is really around making pregnancy safer for everyone, and they do that with some really, really valuable care. They provide expert pregnancy information to support women and their families throughout their sort of pregnancy journey, no matter what stage they're in or what experiences they've been before. They are there to be trusted advisors, and that is the challenge that they set to us and they set to Mindshare, to leverage voice technology to deliver that sort of trusted advice in a way that is user first. So there were 3 key insights that we drew upon when we were developing the design solution for Tommy's and voice. This first and really, really vital one is that 84% of women experience anxiety during pregnancy. And that is huge as a stat. And the trouble is that we know that you can often get overwhelmed when it comes to looking for advice and support on the internet. Often there are vast swathes of information which are often quite conflicting. So not knowing where to turn to for the advice can often worsen and exacerbate that anxiety. And then the third one was actually a tech insight, which came out of a Mindshare report, Look Who's Talking, which is around the benefit of voice technology and the benefit of accessing advice via voice and also listening to it via voice, which is that it offers much greater intimacy and emotion and connection, helping to kind of deliver that really curated information in a very personal style, much like a real midwife would, in a very comforting personal style. So these 3 really, really key insights kind of combined to the design solution, which we then progressed to build, which was using voice to create a destination for Tommy's of quick, trusted advice that expectant parents could turn to for quick fire questions and answers to help reduce their anxiety, particularly during lockdown, but also beyond. So I'm just going to show you a little video which kind of gives you an idea of the solution, and then we'll go into kind of how we develop that. So that essentially is, you can see what we've built. We've built a bespoke voice search engine Google Action and Amazon Alexa skill completely from scratch. And it's able to answer a wide range of personal questions that might cause pregnant women anxiety or embarrassment, and offer answers and information around topics like antenatal depression, maternity leave, morning sickness, anything to kind of offer reassurance for expectant mothers and give a sort of evidence-based source that they can trust. So what we want to just go into now is how we actually built this search engine, and the important things that if you're looking to develop a solution like this, it's worth thinking about. So as I said, what we had to do is build this very sophisticated search algorithm which used different layers of tags. So step one was to make all Tommy's content voice first. So as a lot of you know who have adapted large amounts of content from, say, for example, FAQs on the website or call center support, what works on a website doesn't necessarily work in voice. So the first thing was a content audit of all of the Q&As and cutting them down, editing them, refining them for voice, and make sure that they were kind of navigable and delivered the best advice for the top FAQs around pregnancy and birth. The next step was to categorize these, make sure all the voice-ready content was then sorted into the categories, because these then became user-facing categories to help users get to their answer. And then the third layer was looking at how we would tag that content up. So for pregnancy, if you take an example such as diet, there are lots of layers of complexity and lots of sub-questions within a massive category such as diet that needs to be tagged up accordingly to help the search algorithm refine the answer for the user to make sure that we were delivering the most accurate answer depending on what someone asked. So that was sort of the top line of how it works. What we also did though is we added in, so I talked about this primary and secondary tags, so we tagged up all of the content. We also added in a whole load of utterances. So literally, if someone says the phrase, can I eat cheese whilst I'm pregnant? We have an answer to that. And that was created through a whole series of extensive user testing, refinement, analytics, and it was definitely a worthwhile process to go through, because at the moment we're seeing that almost 30% of matches are actually direct utterance matches of utterances that were manually loaded into the system, and then people tend to ask. So for those who haven't had a direct utterance match, we know that we have tags which allow for 70% of the remaining matches to be tagged based on that. I talked about categories as well, and we have 2 layers of category refinement in the app. So if a user asked a question and there was a direct utterance match or a direct tag match, they would go straight through to the correct answer, which was happening over 30% of the time. However, for, as I said, the complex categories where you might ask a question which could technically fall into 2 categories, or you need a little bit more refinement, we had 2 layers of refinement. So we had a category and a title refinement, and a user could ask a question and then be given a selection of categories to choose from A to B to C to D, and then the user would give an input that then helps refine down. So this kind of method of a free search but with some guided category refinement really helps to increase that accuracy, and just allows you to give the users the best response that you possibly have, especially if the content, like it does when you have 400 bits of content, is always there. It's just about helping the user to get there. The other thing, I touched on this earlier, but is so vital when you're developing something like a free search app, is from the word go, adding in-depth analytics and testing. When it comes to voice apps more generally, tagging and analytics can be a challenge if you rely just on the consoles that the platforms provide. As standard, Voxly Digital always use Google Analytics tagging for everything in their apps, and this could not have been more important in this app, especially when it came to the weeks of testing that we had to do to refine and add utterances, to work out which tags were working. Extensive analytics are absolutely vital to help build that search algorithm over time and refine it. It's also really, really important for not just during the pre-rollout phase in the testing, but once it's live in market as well. as I said before, we run a kind of ongoing optimization program. So having dashboards such as this, an in-depth list of who's asking what isn't prompting a response, who isn't asking bits of content, maybe we can refine the content to make that more navigable. Lots of deep dives into the analysis really helps when it comes to building a complex free search algorithm like this. And then the last point to talk about when we're thinking about designing something like this is, although the algorithm is absolutely key and vital in terms of delivering the best UX, what is so important is to keep that brand magic. So Tommy's have such a great reputation for the caring, the supportive, the trusting, and we really wanted to hold on to that magic via voice. So we worked very hard to do that. Things like tone of voice was important to get right. So we had to have a trusted, soothing tone of voice to make sure the content was delivered in the most supportive way. Using voiceover artist where possible was really vital, especially for the most commonly asked questions in the skill. Make people feel like supported when they've asked a question. The brand world as well, as standard, we will always do visuals when it comes to our voice apps. Tommy's have this very nice neutral branding, which allows you to sort of put yourself in the shoes of the user. So we made sure that all of the relevant messages and visuals throughout were very calming and supportive. And then the other thing is as well, when it comes to something like this, coding and looking at the algorithm logic for sensitive topics is really important. So we did a lot of adaptions when it came to sensitive topics to make sure that the responses we were giving were the safest and the most responsible as possible. So if anyone asked, for example, about stillbirth or suicide, there were some checks and balances around it, around the content and around what content was served and where someone was referred to make sure that the best care was being given. The other thing to note with something like a free search is often if a user hasn't used it before, unlike typing something into Google where you can type and backspace and then type again, you just have to go for it. So sometimes that can lead to stage fright. We designed knowing that, so within the app itself, we included prompts and suggestions of what to ask for. Often we would deliver an answer and then suggest some follow-on content to kind of deepen the usefulness of the answers. And equally, when it came to launch messaging, descriptor copy, explainer videos, we made sure to include lots of examples of the sort of thing you could ask, so that first sort of trepidation of what can I ask was designed for. The final thing to note is that when building something as complicated as a search algorithm with so much content, the ability to have an agile CMS was really vital for both us, Mindshare and Tommy's. So we built this app with a live CMS, so the team could be really responsive with content and advice, especially when it comes to something like healthcare. You want to be able to change that content and update it, and that came to fruition a few weeks before the launch when the coronavirus crisis hit, lockdown started, and suddenly in a matter of hours we needed to add in all this additional content and tagging to make the app most relevant and to make sure that it was actually addressing the key concerns of expectant parents at the time. So what that means is on an ongoing basis now, the Tommy's team can go in, update the latest advice, make sure that it's an evergreen proposition and it doesn't date in terms of the advice we're giving. So that is the build. We're just going to show you a couple of things around the launch and results. So hopefully that was useful, and I'm just going to show you now some of the launch assets. So Tommy's and Mindshare did a brilliant job of the launch. We actually got some great coverage. This is an example of Tommy's website. They did a whole landing page. There was a large campaign around Instagram influencers and healthcare professionals influencers. We got some lovely voice spot coverage, and some good trade press picked it up. The key message here really is timing is so key. You absolutely have to get this marketing check right of things right when you launch a voice app, but timing could not have been better really for Tommy's. This launched, as you say, on March the 30th. so just as the UK went into lockdown, and because we had the ability to change the content and to update it, we can make the offering incredibly relevant. And we saw a huge amount of the questions coming in on launch, particularly being around coronavirus. So this is what happened. This is a national ITV news special, which actually featured Tommy's.
Is this work? Midwives have been on the phone and there are YouTube tutorials, but can technology make up for human contact?
Is coronavirus dangerous for pregnant women?
It's natural to be worried about coronavirus.
Baby charity Tommy's have devised a smart speaker app to answer the questions expectant mothers would normally raise in NCT classes.
These are precautionary measures only.
If you Google anything, can I still exercise while I'm pregnant, you'll get tens of thousands of results. And it's really, really difficult for people to know what they can trust or what is just a myth. And at the moment, especially, there's so much misinformation being passed around. So with this skill, we wanted to create a really safe space, a safe environment for people to ask those questions and get accurate, up-to-date advice.
So it's been a really successful launch so far. Everyone's incredibly happy with the results. We're at 4.3 out of 5 stars on Alexa and Google at the moment. So if anyone feels they would like to have a go and leave us a review, we'd massively appreciate that. We added in some feedback mechanics actually into the voice skill itself. Users occasionally get asked to rate the feedback, and so far the results have been really positive. So we've had 70% of people saying they'd recommend the app, 75% of people said they found it useful, and 80% said they felt supported by Tommy's having used the app. So really, really crucial insights and feedback for us, and hopefully go some way to showing how free search voice results, when you're looking at a very specific category, and you're looking for trusted advice, if managed well and sensitively, can be a really good use case for voice. So to wrap up, some key learnings to take away from our talk. When developing a voice app, look for layers of search levers to pull. So tags, utterances, categories, anything to help a user get to the answer and they can get to without adding in loads of layers of complexity will work well. Analytics, testing, optimization over time, cannot stress the importance of this, especially for a complex build such as this. Putting the time in to preserve your brand magic, making sure that as you move your content to voice, you're really keeping that tone of voice, your credentials, and creating that feeling and emotional connection that you want as a brand. Again, with an example like this, relevancy and timings for launch are absolutely key, especially when it comes to earned media. Really important to plan that, make sure the content in your app is relevant. And then finally, give yourself flexibility in the future, especially when it comes to something like this, to maximize the investment. A live CMS will allow an always-on kind of agile approach to content, and it will really help, especially when thinking about the future. So with Tommy's, for example, the midwife app is very much now part of their brand ecosystem. There are plans to integrate the app into lots more kind of campaign messaging, and we're developing a calendar around that. It's really important to have an agile and flexible CMS system to allow you to add and change content to reflect the wider marketing campaigns and brand positioning over the years in market. So hopefully that was a useful rundown of our app, Tommy's Midwife, and how when you're looking to develop a free search app, the sort of things that's important to consider. As I said, please do ask any questions in the Q&A, and if you want any more information about our reports, Time to Shine with Alexa, and the impact of the lockdown on the UK's use of voice assistants, you can find it at our website, voxlydigital.com. Any other questions, Ravi and myself are available at freshthinking@voxlydigital.com. Anyway, I hope that was useful, and have a good day. Thanks, everyone.